Hello everyone and welcome along to your Sunday night edition of the TII podcast. My name is Craig Dennett and I'm your host this evening as we look back on today's game against Hibs. It wasn't the most exciting game, but I do promise that this chat will be more exciting than that. We will have Tommy McIntyre join us very shortly. He is having some sign-in issues. But between now and then, you've got myself and Ian Mitchell. Ian, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. Yeah. Usually a wee bit more negative in these podcasts. I think I got a bit of hate last week for being so negative after the Dundee game. Yeah, I saw that. So I'm going to try and be a bit more positive. That game might not help me, but a win's a win. Again, we'll come on to it more, but after European midweek, just win the game. Anything else is a bonus, really.
Yeah, we will. We'll delve into loads of the aspects of it, and we'll start speaking about it just now. But Ian, just as I see Tommy coming up on the screen, and I'll add him in a second. But what are your reflections on the game overall?
Quite a long 90 minutes, I think you'd need to say. Not exactly a blockbuster. Again, I think it was kind of in two stages. The first 40 minutes for me was decent. Wasn't anything again great, but a couple of good chances, get the goal. Probably the better side at that point, but from then on, I mean, I think we're quite lucky to get 3 points. Again, you kind of look it back, and again, in the moment is a little difficult because it's 1-0 the full time. You're on kind of edge of your seat, hoping and praying that nothing goes wrong here. Looking back at like highlights and try to delve in it, there wasn't too many clear-cut chances for Hibs, penalty aside. So again, that's maybe a positive for the defence, but just thought we were missing something all game, especially in midfield, whether that was Diomande. I know he's not been incredible lately, but he had a good game midweek, and it just felt like we were missing something to just link the play a little bit. It just seemed quite stuffy for 90 minutes. So got out of it with a 1-0 win. As I said, after our Thursday night game, obviously Clement touched on it, didn't get back till like early hours of Friday morning. So take the 3 points, kind of forget this game ever existed, really.
Forget this game ever existed, yeah. Great way to start the podcast on a
good night. Yeah, cheers.
Tommy, welcome along. Glad you've got your sign-in issues sorted there. How did you view today's game? Were you as down on it, I guess, as Ian was there, or did you manage to grab some positives from it?
Yeah, so my apologies to yourselves, guys, and the listeners and watchers. House moves are very difficult, and seeing you're doing a lot of DIY round about it. I would say if there's any contractors out there, any sparks, electricians, plasterers within the Rangers support who fancy some work, then put your details in the comments or email me at tommy@thisisibrox.co.uk because I have a lot of work being done in this house. And much sticking with that. That theme is that Rangers continue to be that work in progress. But you take your wins where you get them. It's a pretty dire game, lit up by a cracking finish, but we've kept another clean sheet, which is 4 on the bounce. So you're starting to see the potential of this particular house, and you're thinking, I could live in it. And then you're going, but it needs to get better. I need to put in the right kind of flooring. I need to do the walls. I need to see it in the sunshine and all that type of good stuff. That's pretty much it. But how good to be talking about another win. But, they're not stellar wins. But that's nitpicking. People wanted to come off the back of some poor results and do something, go on a run. Well, we're winning games and we're keeping clean sheets. It's not amazing. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But it's a pretty good starting point. And I'll take those boring types of wins because, and somebody get ready with a cliche bell, those are the types of games that keep you in title races, that keep you winning trophies. It's as simple as that. Keep the wheels on, get solidity, get momentum. That's about it. And it's always nice to beat Hibs because they don't deserve anything. So there you go.
Yeah, it's always nice to beat Hibs.
The important point of all of that was the contractor point, by the way. I'm not joking. It's a call to arms. Reach out to me.
Tommy needs help. Whoever can help Tommy, come and help him. Luke Gibson 97 says, I think that's a typical Clement Rangers performance. It's not out of the ordinary at all. CGM 55 says, to be blunt, I thought we were rank. I thought the manager made poor changes and then talked absolute drivel after the game. We'll go into some of Philippe Clement's comments. I'm sure everyone's seen is acting, and some of the screenshots and then the memes that have come out after it as well, some of which are absolutely class. But Tommy, one of the things Iain mentioned when he was talking about the game was potentially missing Diomande in that midfield. He was, I believe, he kind of limped his way off the plane after on the way back from Sweden during the week, so unsure if it's just a knock or anything a little more serious. But how much do you think we missed Diomande in that midfield today, and I guess his creative force?
Yeah, I think we miss more than that. I think we miss his positional sense as well, actually. And Raskin didn't take his opportunity. I think bringing him off was a minutes thing. And we all know Philippe Clement listens to the medical team, pretty exacting with this type of stuff, sometimes with frustration, I think, from the support, certainly from me. But yeah, I think we do need him in there. Midfield continues to be a problem area for me, in that we've got Baron, and that's kind of papering over some of the cracks because he's full of energy, etc. We've tried the Sterling experiment. That's not a long-term position. There needs to be a settled kind of 2 or 3 in there. Diomande's certainly part of that. Is it going to be a Raskin? Can he bring himself back into the fold? I'm not entirely convinced. Dibbles definitely not the answer. And so you're starting to say, okay, what's that going to look like in the future? But yeah, I think we did, to answer your question sharply, yes, we missed Diomande. You're hoping he's not out long-term. But if you want to go on the positive side of the street, and hey, why not? Right, might as well for a change, is that it's more minutes in the legs of Raskin. Right, fair enough. Didn't grab his jersey, didn't do anything, right? But bringing people back from long-term injuries and bad kind of fallbacks and not hitting any sort of form. Okay, we've done it and we've managed to get out with a win. You probably take as much positivity out of that as you possibly can. I mean, I'm wringing that pretty dry there, but there you go. We need Diomande back. I think he settles it. Yeah,
I think we did miss Diomande today. But Iain, before I come on to talk about the Raskin point that Tommy raised there, just on Connor Barron, I thought he was really good again today. I think Tommy mentioned that he papers over some cracks. I think I think he's one of those players that he's so busy, and he's so, even when he's out of position, he's bursting a gut to get back into the right place, or get back and defend, or try and win the ball back, and it's so noticeable compared to, I think, kind of everyone else on the pitch almost, and I think that's why it sticks out. But how impressed have you been with sort of Connor Barron's sort of continuous form? It's not just been a bit of a flash in the pan, and he's had a bit of a dip. It's just been continuous since the minute he arrived in the door.
Yep, it's very much of the Ryan Jack mould of a 7 or 8 out of 10 every game, and just consistently is that. Doesn't make many mistakes, progresses the ball well for us, and it's just pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, he's got a good knack of sort of dropping deep with the centre backs when he has to, but likewise not being out of position when he needs to be in the midfield. So a lot of ticks for me in terms of Connor Barron. As Tommy touched on, he's the kind of one in that midfield that is nailed on, and he's playing every week if he's fit, and quite right. My sort of concern before the game, which I'm sure I put in our group chat, was I just think him and Raskin together, there's not a lot of difference between the two. I think Baron already is a level above in terms of what we want from a midfielder. Raskin, I just don't think, I don't really see what he does, to be honest, which sounds a bit harsh, but I think on the ball we sort of struggle there, and that's where Baron even looks even better, because he does have a pass forward, he has a switch of play, he can just hold it for a period of time if we need him to. So he's definitely ahead in the pecking order in that sense. And my kind of worry in the second half there was how far apart him and Dowell were at times, because you had Dowell try to push forward. As I mentioned, Baron drops a little deeper, and it just left a big hole in the middle of the park, which I don't actually think Hibs exploited as much as they could have, but a good team certainly would have in that point. So a little bit of trepidation in that sense, but we know that Dowell is not a long-term answer here, so just again glosses over it, and I don't see we get away with it in the end, because it wasn't quite like we were holding on as such, but pretty glad when that full-time whistle went, I'll say that.
Yeah, I think everyone that was in Ibrox was quite glad when that full-time whistle went after the long throw-in the corner and stoppage time. Iain, CGM55 says, not sure what Raskin did wrong. He was okay. I think I have to agree with you in terms of him and Baron were just picking up similar spaces. They were making similar runs to kind of pick up the ball off the defence, and it kind of took away any of that attacking sort of threat of a number 8 that we wanted to have in there. I saw a lot of people after the game saying that Philippe Clement clearly doesn't like Nico Raskin, and that's why he took him off at half time. I'm not sure that's necessarily what I read into it. I was more along the lines of what Tommy said around it must be a minutes thing, because Raskin hasn't played much, and Philippe Clement does enjoy a half-time substitute. He's not shy about doing that. Where did you land on sort of Nico Raskin and I guess how he did today, and if it was kind of minutes or that was down to how he was actually performing?
Yeah, I think it's a minutes thing. I think it's quite clear. Obviously, we have Diomande as a bit of a doubt for Thursday night. So if he doesn't play, you're looking at either Dowell or Raskin. It's going to need to play like an hour plus. So give them both half a game, see who does better. Maybe that's who then gets the nod if Diomande doesn't make it, kind of thing. Like I say, I don't think Raskin was terrible. He was playing like a guy who hasn't started a game of football for a while. Like very safe passes, very much hold the ball, don't give the ball away at any point. It was kind of limiting us because we were then missing that pass, whether it was an early ball to Czerny or trying to find Lawrence or Igamane was dropping deep. It just didn't. The play wasn't linking up very well at all while he was on the pitch. But that wasn't simply Raskin's fault. For me, that was just a kind of team thing at that point. So I don't think it's a case of Clement saying, "No, you're rubbish. I'm taking you off." I think it's simply 45 minutes in the legs. Give Dowell the same opportunity and just see who does better out of the two.
Yeah, Tommy, it was obviously Kieran Dowell that came on at half time for him. Kieran Dowell's playing a lot more minutes this season than I ever expected him to. I assume that's partially out of a requirement because of the lack of squad depth.
Go on, say necessity. Say necessity. Get back to it.
I was about to, but I was going to be a bit kinder. I think, but I think it's that lack of squad depth that maybe means that he is coming in those moments. Do you think it? I guess a similar question to what I just asked Ian about Nico Raskin is, and we're trying to judge who Philippe Clement likes and who he's using because he has them, kind of thing. I think still a little bit, and Kieran Dowell definitely fits into that mold for me. Where do you think Dowell fits in that sort of thinking?
I think if he had got shot of him and replaced him, he would have. I mean, I said this towards the end of last season and during pre-season as well on the podcast that players would still be within the squad that we didn't particularly want, the manager didn't want, but it's pragmatism. You know, he is one of those people that you turn over at a certain point in time, probably not expecting to get any sort of money back, right? Or any sort of profit, I should say. Can he do a job in the odd game, maybe pop up? Yeah, he's in and around the squad, trains well, apparently, doesn't cause any fuss, knows that it's not kind of going to land there at Ibrox any long term. And then you get him out the door at a point. But right now he's able to come off the bench and do bits and pieces. There's a few players like that in the squad, and unfortunately that's where we are. That'll probably continue. I don't know, but I would expect it to continue with some people in the next season as well. But you would hope the heavy lifting will have been done this pre-season, across the winter window and into next pre-season. But yeah, unfortunately that's where we are. Just horses for courses, you cut your cloth out, all that kind of nonsense. But it's pragmatic. And so the manager is looking about for bodies who can fill in spaces and allow people that he thinks are going to be there longer term and give a little bit more to get their minutes and come back off and stuff like that as well. So it probably tells you a deeper story about the squad and the fact that, and I don't believe that there's anybody watching or listening to this at all who doesn't fully understand that our squad still needs a lot of work. Almost as much work as my house. So let me remind the watchers and listeners I get to it with contractors. Right. So tonight's podcast is brought to you by my need for plastering and joinery. Right. But it's the same with everything. The fact of the matter is we just need to keep turning the wheel on it and winning at the same time.
Ian, when I saw the starting lineup, I was kind of thinking, I'm not sure if that's a bit too many changes for my liking, especially with Diomande already been sort of missing out of necessity. I'll go for that one, Tommy. With him being out because of injury, and then there's a few others in there. I was quite happy to see Hamza Igamane getting his start. but I wasn't sure necessarily that Czerny and McCausland would be the two wide players that I'd want to be sort of supplying them with the ball or with the chances. And I think that kind of played out in the game today. There was a lot of frustration around Václav Czerny, and it wasn't just Kyle that was coming from. And Ross McCausland, again, was busy, but didn't do a great deal in terms of creativity. I realise he did put the ball through to Tom Lawrence for the goal, which we'll come on to.
But there's an argument to be made there. Sorry for interrupting, but there's an argument to be made that it's an interesting one, but having Czerny on the books has started to focus McCausland's mind a little bit more to try and be more direct and break into the box and stuff like that. I mean, maybe this is going to be your wider point, but Czerny's continual cutting in, and he's playing the ball back in square and all that is becoming a little bit concerning. But yeah, I mean, I thought McCausland's he's trying to do things at the top end of the pitch. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I think he was still. There was a couple of pieces of play that I turned to Kyle when we were at the game, and he'd kind of played 4 or 5 passes, and he's made his way from left wing to right wing, but he's still in line with where he started in terms of his progression on the pitch. So he's done quite a bit, and he's played some nice play in there, but we've not progressed anywhere forward. And actually, he's now on the wrong side of the pitch from where he's supposed to be. I realise that leaves space for Jeff Day as well, which is helpful, but it's still a bit of a concern because then he's doubled up with Czerny on the other side, etc. But Ian, I think the question really was, would you have are those the right two that we want starting out wide, or would you have selected someone different? And was that a concern in terms of the final third and the creativity?
I think if I look at them both individually, they seem quite different to me. McCausland is still a bit of a project. No one expects him to start week in, week out. Hopefully, he just gets better as time goes on. But I mean, I don't think his like end position is going to be a starter for Rangers at any point. Hopefully, I'm wrong, because he seems like a really good kid. Seems like he is improving, which is all we ask at this stage. And he obviously talked about that in his interview after his goal midweek about how he's working on certain things and working on his left foot in particular, just to try and be a bit more varied, which is brilliant. That's what you want to see. So, yeah, he's the kind of guy that I think can impact games here and there. But I can't see him getting like your 10 goals, 10 assists that you'd hope for a winger. So, again, long term, he seems a bit of a stopgap at this point. Czerny is just so frustrating for me, because I think when he came in, we all thought, right, this is the guy we want. This is the left-footed right winger we've been crying out for, can score a goal, can make an assist kind of thing. He's got it all in those first few games, and it's tailed off quite rapidly, really. I don't know if it's just a case of he's now not been found out, but a little bit of scouting from the other team's left back, and you know what he's going to do every time. You just keep him on that one side, and he's going to check back, and that's kind of all done today. I don't think it's helped with James Tavernier, and I'm not going to make this the whole bashing of Tav as we seem to do sometimes, but I think he needs a winger that can bomb on and get past him consistently, so that you've then got the option of, well, I'm either coming inside and having a shot, or I'm playing the ball off to my right back who's going to get a cross in. Tav just doesn't have the legs to do that anymore. Like, I don't really see Casemiro or Sterling being that attacking fullback either, so I don't think there's a great solution either way. But I think that would take a bit of heat off him. But today he was very poor. Didn't really impact the game. Could have been either of them that came off. I'm not really sure why McCausland came off. Again, I don't know if that's a minutes thing, because likewise he's not played over an hour for a while, if I can remember right. So it might have just been a case of we're used to getting 45 minutes and then we're changing it. Likewise, keep Badrami in amongst it. So might have been a pre-planned one, but he was fine for me, McCausland. I wouldn't say he deserved to come off. Again, he had a couple of good bits of play. Gets an assist, technically, which is fact. Looking at long term, I don't really know what I want from wingers just now. I kind of put all my eggs in the Cortez basket, and those eggs have smashed yet again. So at this point, I don't really know what the ideal solution is. Maybe it's just Badrami.
Tommy enjoyed that one.
That was good. It's just a proper dad joke right in there.
I'm always a fan of that type of thing, to be honest with you. So, yeah,
thank you. I think Badrami is the left winger at this point, because you can't drop Lawrence, and then it's just a case of, I don't see who else is going to play it outright, other than Czerny and McCausland, so they just kind of have to share it at this point. I think that's, again, I'm going to use the word necessity, but that is what it is at this point for a winger situation.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Tommy, Hamza Igamane got his first start for Rangers. He's been pretty promising in the substitute appearances he's had so far. People are pretty excited about what he's going to potentially offer us in the future. I've seen a lot of contrasting comments. Some people believe we need to have a striker that's ready to go now and that's going to hit the ground running. And some people are saying this is really good that we've got this promising youngster that's going to develop over the next year or two and become a really good striker for us. There's also the discussion going on whether he fits into the system that we've got just now in terms of being that lone striker up against a sort of physical defence like Hibs have, versus would he be better because he seems to drop in quite a lot. So would he be better having a striking partner as such as well? What did you make of his performance today, and where do you think we'll find the best of Hamza Igamane?
Yeah, we didn't find the best of it today, and so before that though, Ian Thompson in the comments, I see you, your excellent summary. Get him banned, right? Is essentially what I'm saying right now. Right, that's enough of that, right stuff. But yeah, it was a pretty mediocre performance. Let's call it for what it is, right? He comes with a lot of hype from the fan base. We like what we've seen. He's a young player. There's potential there. That was a performance of somebody who's got potential, and we shouldn't overload the pressure into that and think it's it's going to solve all of our problems. Kept going out wide as well, which I'm not entirely sure is where you want him. I think his touch wasn't really working today as well. Hold up was so. He saw bits of his game that definitely needed the refinement and the build on top of them. But do I like him? Yeah, I'm with everybody. I like him, and I like the fact that we've got somebody in the books who's generating a bit of noise positively and can come in and do something for us. I do think he's going to be better with a 2, unless he uses that physique and gets slightly bigger as well and can hold off defences and can do some of the things. And it's lazy, and I don't always like comparing people to Morelos or anything like that, but be able to bully defences like that and pull them apart. I'm not saying they're the same type of player in any great shape or form or anything like that, but yeah, he's a young player. Today you got a young player's performance in that he didn't do anything. Didn't do anything, right? Any other kind of take on that is a bit rose tinted. So there you go. But he's got a long way to go. We hope to see the best of him in a blue jersey. Simple as that.
Yeah, Ian, was starting Hamza Igamane as much about giving him a chance, I guess, to get 50, 60 minutes in his legs and a start at Ibrox, versus giving Cyril Dessers a bit of a rest. We've got a pretty hectic schedule between now and Christmas, pretty much, and we're going to need to be able to give Dessers the chance to take maybe 60 minutes off and come on for the last 30, like he did today, just to make sure he keeps going and he's able to keep going. We saw the last season he was just forced to play game after game after game, and his form was good for a certain period of time, and then it kind of started to drift off towards the end. I guess, is it just important that we're able to give Dessers a rest almost as much as see Hamza Igamane and give him the minutes he needs to start his development?
Yeah, completely. As you say, Dessers just ran out of steam last season. Understandably, like as you say, it was weekend, midweek, 90 minutes. It's just exhausting for any player. So that can't happen again. But then you look at like our options up there, and if it wasn't Igamane coming in for an hour, who else possibly could? There's literally no one. So whether Igamane is ready for a start, whether he's good enough to play an hour for us just now, that's one question. But we need him to. Like Tommy said, he didn't have a great game. Don't think it was terrible. It was just one of those ones that didn't really get much to feed off. He had one shot that I remember he kind of blazed over. Not much else involvement really. But is that the midfield's fault? Is that a chance creation thing? Again, I don't think he missed a lot of chances, so maybe a bit unlucky. Kind of the team he had behind him today. So not going to give up hope on him. Still think he's possibly what we're looking for in a striker. Long way to go before we can confirm any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, if they two can kind of share the role, dip in here now, I think this week the tougher test is obviously Lyon. That's kind of goes without saying. So that's the game that Dessers will start. Probably play 90 minutes, I would imagine. Maybe come off 5-10 minutes to go kind of thing, but he'll play the vast majority of that game. And I think today was just a case of get the last half an hour, see if he can get a goal, which he should have, and I hope we do come on to, because that was ridiculous. And yeah, just sort of take that into Thursday night.
Yeah, we'll definitely come on to that. We'll come on to talk about Dessers and his performance a little bit later on, but let's move on to talking, I guess about that first half, Tommy, and the style of play. It was very, very much back to the norm of what we've been seeing, and we were all impressed, I think, by the performance midweek. It was how we wanted us to play. It's how we've wanted to see us play. It was, a lot of people were saying that's how Philippe Clement wants us to play continuously, and obviously Malmo as well were a team that were coming out at us a little bit, so it creates that wee bit of extra space and allows you to find that and to play through the lines a bit easier, etc. Whereas Hibs came to Ibrox and sat back and wanted to hit us on the counter attack, and actually looked quite dangerous on the counter attack when they did get the ball, and our play broke down. But our play and our style of play reverted back to, right, let's get the ball wide and let's try and whip balls into the box. And there wasn't really too much going through the middle. And when we did try and go through the middle, Cherny, for example, would cut in and he was just surrounded by bodies. So I think partially Hibs are forcing us wide to do that, but we also probably do that quite naturally now as well. What do you make of that sort of contrast in style of play? It's almost like it feels a little bit one step forward, one step back.
Yeah, but I think you've asked the question and answered the question there, to be honest with you. You've not given me a lot of wiggle room here. So I'll do a Cherny and cut back in. But no, I think you're absolutely right. It's a really fair synopsis. And maybe go back to, I don't want to duplicate what I said earlier on, right? It's always positive to keep a clean sheet and get a victory, right? Nobody can look at that performance and say it was great, right? It was run-of-the-mill stuff where you get your 3 points and everybody goes, right, well, fine. But we started with a bit of energy, got a great goal. Didn't seem to really knit together. There were certain passages, but we weren't stellar going forward. And then the second half, we looked like we'd never strung two passes together before in our lives. It was really scrappy. We allowed Hibs to come right back into it. We seemed to settle back a little bit. As you said, we were not really exposing the space that we'd created a little bit in the first half. And then just got nervier and nervier. I mean, the chance from Gale and stuff like that as well.
I thought that was in.
Everybody's heart was in their mouth there. And as a support as well, it felt kind of odd in the stadium. You're thinking, if they get one, it's going to be a difficult night or difficult day, I should say. Same with the corners at the end. We just didn't impose ourselves in the second half, and that's the worrying thing, particularly when you've made changes. And you're saying, right, and this goes back to what the listeners and the watchers and ourselves are talking about in the chat and stuff like that, of you're changing stuff off the bench, you're not seeing an immediate change to the style of play, and you're not seeing add real impetus or value. None of the changes seem to get us to where we wanted to get to. And the second half was just an absolute slog. Don't concede, try and get one. Dessers should absolutely score. Anybody who's saying that that's a wonderful, wonderful save by the goalkeeper, put it back across the keeper. Actually put it back across. It does well enough, but you're expecting your centre forward to finish from there. So yeah, it was a lot nervier than it needed to be. But that goes back to the fact that we are now starting to get to some of that space of we're playing well. Take Malmo and to some extent today a little bit. When there's chances up, we're not actually taking as many as we should. But that comes back to some of the point we've spoken about of what's your answer up front. Dessers will get you a certain level of goals. He'll need a certain level of chances to convert them. He doesn't always get them in the big game. Danilo's posted missing. Igamane is not the answer right now. Can you get to the winter window and then bring in somebody else on a loan or whatever that looks like? So there's just a couple of challenges that still exist within that squad and within the makeup that were still there at the beginning of the season and pre-season. It's just that simple until we start absolutely taking chances in real games that matter. Yeah,
I think that's fair. I will always say that Cyril Dessers has scored in games that matter, just not often enough. He scored against Betis. He scored against Celtic. I think he can say he scored in games that matter. But he's
so ready. Bite back. He's ready.
Aye, absolutely. Turn up and score a winner in an Old Firm. Turn up and score, last minute winners or tight ones. And
how many players we had do that though in the last however many years?
Hold on, when you get one chance. Cyril Dessler's problem. I'm not doubting the guy's got ability. He scores goals. You're absolutely right. And his hold-up play got slightly better than it was. But if you want to be the absolute number 9 jersey holder and you want to be seen as that dangerous centre-forward for Rangers, then you've got to be the guy who gets one chance and buries it in a big pressurised game. Once he's done that, you come back to me, because he's not done that yet.
Yeah, I think outside of Alfredo Morelos, I'm not sure we've had a striker that's done that for however long, to be honest. So
but time doesn't mean he gets a buy on it. You know what I mean? You can't say just because circumstance there hasn't been tons of them means that you start to slow down what would be the absolute building blocks of that. So I get your point, right? But you slowly whittle away what you think is the value of a real centre forward there. And we should be very conscious of the danger of settling just because we've been through a tough time. All right.
I get that, but the transfer window's shut and we've got what we've got, and he's the best that we've got at this moment in time. So
I've still said he's the number 9. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. He is the number 9 holder of the jersey, and I think he's all right, and he'll score goals. But let's not kid ourselves to some extent as well. I hope the guy proves me wrong as well and fires us to the title, fires us to trophies. But let's just be open-eyed about things.
Yeah, and that's fair. Let's move on to the goal that we did actually score, and it was a wonder goal, Ian, that we all thought was offside, or initially at least thought was offside. There was lots of questions about it around me because no one was quite sure, and it looked really tight. But Tom Lawrence, I think that we lose possession of the ball, and it's either Jeff Day or McCausland wins the ball back. McCausland plays the ball into Lawrence out on the left flank. He does look a wee bit offside, but play continues. Referee allows play to continue. He cuts inside and curls an absolute screamer into the top corner in the side netting to put us 1-0 up. The assistant puts his flag up, and there's a long VAR wait, which is always a positive if you want it to change from what the original call was, and it was given as a goal. Firstly, how good a goal was that today from Tom Lawrence?
Yeah, there's been a lot of questions on why Clement plays Tom Lawrence, and that goal is why Tom Lawrence gets so many starts and gets so many minutes for us. No one else in the squad can do that. Tav maybe could here and there, but on a regular basis, shooting from outside the box, Tom Lawrence can score that kind of goal. He done it against Kilmarnock at the end of last year, quite similar goal, albeit a bit more central. He's got a good shot on him, and that's a great goal. It's really, really good finish. It's what that game kind of needed in a way, because it was going to take either an error, a penalty, or a moment of magic to win it. And Lawrence, thankfully for us, got that moment. Again, the ball from McCausland is good against what we touched on before. Bit of a brave pass. There is always an easier pass backwards. He chooses to go that sort of reverse ball. I'm down the opposite end of the stadium, so I didn't know if it was VAR checking a foul, an offside, or what was going on. Again, it took about 20 minutes, so by the time the referee gave it, I could see my phone, people texting me that it was onside, so sort of spoiler for that one for me. But no, it's what we needed, and like I touched on right at the start there, it's why Tom Lawrence gets so many minutes. We know he has his faults. We know he's not the pressing monster that we want. He's not maybe the best at linking the play here and there. He's not the most agile footballer, but he's got a great shot on him. And sometimes, especially what we've struggled with over the last few years, is just having a shot. And if you've got that quality, you need to try and utilise it, which he's done perfectly there. So full credit to him. And I was checking earlier, he's now scored more goals this season than he has the past 2 seasons for us. He's got 3 and 6 in the league, which pretty decent ratio. It's what you want for your number 10. There was obviously a lot of comments, even before, obviously Bijrami did come in the end, but we are so focused. We need a 10, someone that can do numbers, someone get goals and assists. Whether it's just been Bijrami coming in or whether it's Lawrence staying injury free, something's clicked for him and we are reaping those rewards right now. So long may that continue. Yeah,
Tommy, the title of this podcast is Has Tom Lawrence Proved His Worth for Rangers? Cubby Cubster says Lawrence so far this season has proved his worth. Scored the winner against Dundee United away and scored the winner today at home. A cracking goal. What have you made of Tom Lawrence so far this season, and is it giving you encouragement? I think we were all a bit maybe down on him at the start of the season, that he was going to be our only number 10 in there, and we didn't seem to have invested in that during the transfer window specifically, or competition for him at least. But he's come out firing in these early stages. I think the only one you can probably pick him up on is the game at Parkhead. I'm still never convinced he's the man for that role in those types of games, but in other ones, I think he's definitely got positive stuff he can bring to the team. What have you made of him so far?
Yeah, well, I pretty much agree with a lot of what you've just said there, Craig, in all honesty. I think he's had his best run since he's been in a Rangers jersey. Let's see what that looks like towards the end of the season. And he's got to prove it. He's got to continually prove it, because right now the ledger's still pretty much you've done nothing. In all honesty, you've had a couple of good games. Yeah, it's a cracking goal, and Cubby's right. He's had a good start, but that wouldn't be all right. He's definitely a keeper, or he's one for a contract extension, or anything like that in any way, shape, or form. He has to go through the season and give a level of consistency that he's not been able to, and not go missing in some of those other games as well. And then we can look at it. But right now, he's one that I'd be saying, right, yeah, he probably should be shipped out come the end of the season. Up to him to prove me wrong, or prove to himself and prove to the manager that he's got that level of fitness and consistency, and he can show his talent, because he's obviously a talented guy. You know what I mean? There's some cracking finish today, but still a long way to go for Tom Lawrence to be part of Rangers next season, in my opinion. But again, he might fall into that bucket of people who you don't necessarily want in the squad having to be kept on because it's a turnover thing.
Yeah, a lot of people highlighting that Tom Lawrence is contracting in this summer, so he's playing for his Rangers future currently. And how often have we seen players who are playing for a new contract go on a wee bit of a hot streak and then come away from it? Ian, some comments on sort of.
Sorry, just to throw that in there for maybe Ian, yourself, and watchers and the listeners, because it's very viable that. And that if he plays okay, let's say adds another couple of goals, gets to 10 or whatever, maybe manages to be through the season, with your budget as it is he one that you then offer an extension to a year or two? Doubt you'd want to sign on for a year, right? So do you turn to him and say, yeah, we want you still here, or do you cut your losses on him, no matter what he does?
I personally think I cut my losses on him. I think he's been sort of too injury prone, and then when he's been on the park, he's not delivered enough. In the previous week, you're looking at effectively 2 years versus 2 months of stuff of comparison. So you have to go with the longer term performances, I think, and it's not shown enough for me. Ian, where do you stand on that one?
Yeah, I need to agree, sadly. I think once Badrami's up to speed, we've got maybe a Cortez back, I think he might be the guy that you bring on with kind of 20 minutes to go in a game rather than starting 90 minutes back-to-back kind of thing. So if we're saying this now, in another, 9-10 months' time, when he's an extra bit older, he's 32 at that point, I believe. So, yeah, he came in for free. He's gave us, I'd say, a subpar time at this point. Again, he could have a great season, could pick up some trophies, and let's all hope he does and shuts us up. That's what we're wanting, obviously. But unless he has, your 10, 15 goals, 10, 15 assists kind of thing that you want from your number 10 over that prolonged period, I wouldn't be so upset to see him leave.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Just bringing in those comments that I mentioned earlier. So CGM 55, very good goal, but what else did he do? I want a 10 who creates for others and gets his goals. I'm still not convinced Lawrence has the legs to play as our number 10. Ian Thompson says Lawrence has been good and is improving, but he's another one that, like Dessers, has to prove it against the likes of Celtic. And then Kyle 1872 says Tom Lawrence hasn't proved his worth. Short and simple on that one. Ian, you spoke earlier that Tom Lawrence is the start number 10 for us at the moment, and rightly should be. Do you think he's done enough to secure that against others in the squad?
I think as a starting lineup, we're doing a very much game by game basis at this point. Seeing who's fit, seeing, again, we've touched on it already, but Clement is so fitness focused, and at this point has to be, that it's a case of, right, these are my fittest players, these are who fits into these slots, whether it's working sort of in a perfect balance or not. It's just game to game right now. Again, we've obviously looked at this and thought, right, I would imagine Bajrami's going to get that start at the left wing against Leon, because again, McCausland, I wouldn't really trust in there. And if you're not playing McCausland at left wing right now, who else are you playing? There's no Matondo, there's no Cortez. You can't even push Jeffrey up to bring in a Ridvan kind of thing. So there's a lot that the manager maybe wants to do, but right now he's getting decent performance out of Lawrence. He's getting numbers out of Lawrence. I think he's pretty much nailed on to being number 10 midweek and beyond, really.
Yeah, I think that's fair at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how that progresses, and hopefully, for the sake of the team, Tom Lawrence's form continues to go up and up, and we do see more goals from him, and we get the 10 goals from a midfielder that we've badly missed for however many seasons now, and we do need that to come from more than one midfielder, not just one, but one would be a start, I guess. Ian, 1-0 up after 36 minutes. You're thinking, right, just get to half time, but it does feel like we badly need a second here. And then just as the 4 minutes of added time goes up from the fourth official, John Souttar blocks. Looks like a bit of a stramash in the penalty area after a set piece. John Souttar blocks it. Referee waves away any claims of anything, and it isn't until the ball goes out of play that it starts to look like I'm not sure what happened there. Similar to you with the Tom Lawrence goal, it was up the other end of the park for me, so I had no idea what might have happened in amongst the bodies there. But you're assuming that there's a risk of a handball in there. Did you think it was a penalty at the game, first of all?
At the game, there was too many bodies. I didn't have a clue what happened, and I am up that end. So if I'm not sure what's happening, I can see why the ref has missed it. A telling sign for me was the fact that there was like 8 or 9 Hibs players in the box, and every one of them's appealing for that, like properly appealing. So you kind of read. I mean, we all watch enough football, when players are just chancing or when they're adamant, that's a handball kind of thing. And for me, that kind of told me that there's a problem here for us. Look back at it just before we came on here. I'd be screaming for it if we were going through it, so I'm not gonna deny that. It's very harsh on Souttar, but his hand is in the way. It's sort of out. I've watched Clement's sort of post match and can see what he means. Like if you are going to block it, you've just got limbs everywhere, kind of thing, which is fair. But for me, it probably is a penalty. And again, we've just been bailed out by Butland for this one. I think that's his first penalty save for us. I maybe I'll be wrong. Yeah, is that a first? I thought it was.
Did he save one against Matt O'Reilly against Celtic? I can't remember. I think I read today it was his second one. I was trying to remember what the other one was.
First meaningful one, maybe. We'll say that. Going back to the Dessers and meaningful chat. But yeah, it was first meaningful penalty save from him, and it bailed us out. He was my man of the match today, which maybe says a lot about the game itself. So yeah, I can see why it's given. I'd be screaming for it, and I'm not gonna deny any of that.
Yeah, Tommy, penalty for you?
Yeah, I think it is. I think what cements it is as he kind of goes to ground, the arm goes up, and that makes it. If the arm travels down with him, I'm going to stop myself for a stray into biomechanics or something like that, right? Any that kind of nonsense. But it looks as if he's moved the elbow a wee bit knowingly, try to get away with it. It hits him. I don't think it's controversial that the referee's given that one, to be honest with you. I think it is a pen.
I think Clement's comments, sorry again to jump in, but I think Clement's comment is a little bit of a deflection kind of thing going on, just a wee bit of smart management, because the headlines tonight, it's all going to be about how Clement doesn't think it's a penalty and he's calling out the refs, blah, blah, whereas no one's going to be focusing on, I don't want to say our terrible performance, that's going a bit extreme, but how maybe lacklustre we were. So for me, it's quite clever management in a very sly, sort of Mourinho-esque kind of way.
Yeah, Tommy, a lot of people were making the comparison to the other side of the city and the penalty that was given and then wasn't given against William Scales, and the bit of, I guess, they're pointing towards inconsistency more than anything else from that. The handball rule for however many years now has been inconsistently refereed, and I'm not sure anyone understands it greatly as to where it sits anymore. I know with the SFA's VAR review show and stuff like that, they tried to explain it a bit better, and I assume they'll continue to try to explain it over the next 12 months as they go through each show. Is it, from a consistency perspective, were you comfortable with it?
Probably not, but that's not the point. The matter is it's not wholly about those two decisions. It's the wider thing, which is always we never seem to get this stuff right in Scotland. We never seem to just have a level of consistent quality to our refereeing. And that's not me throwing, probably won't win a lot of friends here, right? But that's not me throwing all the referees and all that under the bus. You know, they're doing a difficult job. And I think they could be better supported, but also they're not very good at it. You know, and there comes a point in time where there should be a little bit of accountability. You could maybe point to the fact that we've got a refereeing crisis in football in general, and people don't want to pick up the whistle and stuff like that. But yeah, we seem to accept mediocrity from an officiating perspective, and that washes throughout the seasons with various different teams, including us. And it always comes back to, I would love a bit of consistency. Do you know what? I just love people who can actually do their job to start with, and then we can push the boat out for that particular jetty. So yeah, you want to point fingers at the governing body and the fact that they've allowed what is our top league to get to a position where the officials in it are pretty substandard. And then you look at the clubs and say, well, how did you allow that as well? Some of them get more vested interest than others, but yeah, none of us benefit by having poor referees, other than some people benefit from decisions. But yeah, you just want the whole level of it to go up, and unfortunately, we never seem to get that right.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Point of comment saying it was a penalty. CGM 55, definitely a penalty. Moving up by his arm is what it does for him. Fully stupid from Suter. Westall 18 thought it was a stick on pen, moves his arm up. Kyle 1872, penalty kick, Stonewall for me. To watch Clement defend in the press conference was embarrassing. What do you make of that comment, Ian? I think when you watch the press conference versus see the stills from the press conference, I think it looks it changes the context of it all. But what did you make of Philippe Clement's reaction in the presser?
Yeah, like I say, I think there's a little bit of deflection going on, which I'm not against. Like I think it's quite clever management. Clement obviously did play the game as a defender, so he's going to have that natural sympathy for Suter's situation in terms of just flinging yourself in front of it, and sometimes the ball hits your hand. Likewise, it's a very close proximity movement, so I can see what he sort of means. Obviously, the memes and the pictures have started already with sort of how Clement wound up in the press conference, so that's going to be a bit of the talking point as well. But he's probably just tried to defend his player. We've been saying for years this support that we don't kind of call out these inconsistencies and these issues with the refs. I think we've had a few two managers who have just been too nice at times. So again, I'm not really against it if Clement tries to kind of fight fire with fire, because again, not to look at the other side of the city, but they'd be doing the exact same thing, and that long-term narrative has paid off for them. So is it part of that as well? Again, it could just be literally the angle that Clement has had of it. He's probably not seen a lot of replays at that stage, and he's just sort of a bit fired up from the match. Bit of relief has obviously kicked in from getting the win. I think he's just kind of trying to defend his team a little bit. I'm not too bothered by it.
Yeah, thankfully, the Hibs player, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, but the Hibs player stepped up and took an absolutely terrible penalty, but it was well saved by Jack Butland as well, and that really that was so important at that moment in time as we headed into half time, but also in the context of the game and where we were at that moment in time as well. I wasn't necessarily confident we were going to find a second goal at any point. Tommy, second half was kind of more of the same. A couple of changes at half time, but it was kind of more of the same. We never really got going, was pretty flat, didn't create much at all. I can't really remember many clear-cut chances. The Cyril Dessers one is probably the only one that sticks out as a clear-cut chance. We also lost control of the game for what I think was about a 15-minute period. How were you concerned by that during the second half?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that maybe the wind would come out of Hibs' sails a little bit after Kukarevic's enjoy that. There you go. Okay,
yeah, done. There you go.
After his penalty miss, it was a poor penalty. It's a good save. You know, keeper needs to save it and all that, but it's a really poor penalty. Never a big fan of those stuttered run-ups.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like them. Come back to me if somebody in a blue jersey does it and then buries it in the back of the net, in which case I'll say that's lovely, right? Obviously. But yeah, I thought that We would then go and impose. I thought it was the first couple of minutes were really scrappy. The second half, nobody wanting the ball, kind of trying to give it away to each other, and that probably set the tone a little bit. Nobody grabbed it, and so by definition, we hadn't grabbed it. Therefore, it was up for grabs. And Hibs took confidence more and more from that because we hadn't got the second. And you know what it's like. Everybody starts to get a wee bit tighter. Teams think they can maybe get something and put the pressure on us. Yeah, a lot of it was kind of middle to front and then choosing the wrong pass or getting bogged down and that type of thing. I think Gale's, we spoke about it earlier, Gale's chance, I think everybody in the stadium thought that was buried. Dessler's chance, okay, the keeper, let's say, gets hand to it, but Dessler should be burying that as well. That's probably the tail of it. There wasn't a lot of quality in the second half. It was a bit scrappy and turgid. And that's horrible to watch. You suppose you can reflect on it afterwards and go, kept a clean sheet again, got ourselves back out, there's the positivity. But I mean, I'm stretching the tape a wee bit to say that there was positivity coming out the back of it other than those 3 points, which is the most important thing. But really poor performance second half, actually. We're at home, we're 1-0 up, we just had a penalty saved. You were thinking we'd come out and dominate it, and we didn't. Nobody seemed to really want to take it home.
Yeah, Ian, that's Cyril Dessler's chance. Ball comes over, he's inside the 6-yard box, and I think he tries to do the right thing in terms of going back across the goalkeeper. He's probably a bit too central with his header. When you see the still image of it, I think it looks a lot worse of a miss, because you can see that if he literally heads it down and straight, it's a goal every day of the week. He's tried to go back across, which I can understand as a striker, and I actually thought the keeper was behind the line and managed to make a decent save from it. But we really needed that second goal at that moment in time, and that was the perfect opportunity. Yeah,
we touched on it earlier. The moment that you need Dessers to stand up and kill a game or get the goal, doesn't do it. Same against Malmo the other night. Has that one-on-one chance when Badrani plays him through. Should finish that. That's your 2-0 there. You're done. Doesn't get it. Obviously, we got away with it on Thursday because of McCausland's goal. Got away with it today with the clean sheet. So it's maybe not as raw as what it could be. But if Hibs do get that Gale shot as a goal, that Dessers is hated right now by everyone in the comments. He's getting called out by us. Twitter's rife with the hate against him. That's just the way it's going to be. So he is probably the most relieved man in Scotland tonight. That's not been a major impact.
I'm not sure Cyril Dessers will be thinking about that one bit. I'm not sure.
I don't know if he's hated. That's a strong word.
He's not hated.
Well, you used it, so I'm pointing that back to you, Ian. Come on.
But if Hibs score that goal and we work out there for one each, who's the blame going to? Like that's fact. It's the sitter. And I get the whole it's a decent save thing, right? Of course, it's the keeper has done well to somehow save that. That's fair, but he shouldn't have a chance. Again, it still maybe paints a slightly different picture because it looks like he could just nod and that's it. So I get that, but he's just not the clinical guy that we need. And don't get me wrong, the second half wasn't a good performance at all. It wasn't Dessler's fault that we had a poor second half. That's a bigger problem, which we're always touching on, but it's just that little moment that just kills you. And the thing is, everyone around you at that point is going, "Oh, that's Dessler's. That's what he does. He might score the next one," kind of thing. And it's just where we are as a striker problem just now. But yeah, the second half for me it never got going into anything. We just got a bit deeper and deeper. I think there's a point. It's 2 or 3 minutes to go until 90 minutes, and we are just camped out. They've got a goal kick. They pass it out, walk up the pitch, and we just look like the wee team, which. Fair enough, a couple minutes to go, see it out, that's fine. But it just didn't feel like a Rangers v Hibs second half, if that makes sense. It just didn't look like we were the superior team as we should have been.
Tommy, defensively, obviously another clean sheet today. That's 4 clean sheets in a row. I think it's apart from there's obviously the game at Parkhead and then the own goal that Proper scored against Motherwell. But outside of that, we've not seen a goal in the league. I feel like the defence has quietly been getting better and better as each game goes by. There's probably a bit of familiarity coming in as well. You've got Jeffrey at left back there. You've got Proper at centre half, who've both come in this summer. You've got Suter, who has moved across one since Goldson's left. James Tavernier there. But I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, we gave up 18 shots at home at Ibrox," and that's not something you see that you see very often. I don't think Jack Butland was troubled much at all outside of the penalty. But how important is that, and how much of a solid base does that give us as a team that, yes, in the game it might feel to us as fans as though we're under the cosh a little bit, but actually the defence isn't giving up much at all, and it's not giving up much at all in the last few games.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, purely because it's in my eye line on the comments, hello to Sid from Toronto. Sid, get with the time difference, right? We're kind of closing the shop here. You're just turning up. But always nice to know that we've got listeners and watchers from around the Rangers support, wherever they happen to be. Yeah, in terms of we kept 4 clean sheets, and you could talk about it depends how. I mean, I'm going to end on a positive, right? Because you could be quite negative about that and say we're giving up shots, and actually, for want of better finishing, we could have been on the end of different results, right? And the point is to not give up the chances at all, by and large, right? But horses for courses to a certain extent, right? I mean, we've still won. I don't want to lose sight of that. And like you say, it's the 4th clean sheet. I don't want to lose sight of that either. Sometimes it's about enjoying the moment when you actually can. Right, and we've been through a hell of a bad enough time anyway. I'm going to enjoy my 1-0 victory over a wee club like Hibs all the same, right? But you want to. I always feel, maybe I'm being slightly negative here, right? But I always feel that we're quietly efficient, but we do look like we are able to be absolutely cut home. There's still a little bit of last minute defending about it to me, and if people don't kind of get where I'm going from, it just looks nervy sometimes, and that we don't naturally trust each other, and that there's still a little bit of knitting together. But that's natural because you've got a new left back and you've got a new centre back, and they're trying to work in with each other. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. For those who like their stats, 4 clean sheets. For those who don't, 4 clean sheets. So take what you're going to get, and just enjoy it, I suppose, until we see us concede at some point in time. Not naturally an answer, by the way, there to your real question, but it's the best that you're going to get out of me at this point.
Yeah, fair. And we'll say hello to Cliff Renfrew as well. Hello from LA, 82 and sunny, plus a Rangers win.
My apologies, Cliff, if I missed Cliff from LA as well. He gets the same chat about time differences.
Yeah, absolutely. Iain, John Souttar's one, particularly in the defence, who feels like he's in a good bit of form just now, and I think we saw that again today numerous times. He was the man that was putting his body on the line on several occasions against shots from outside the box. Obviously gave away the penalty, which I think he's a bit unlucky with, just as a defender. But I think he's been playing really well recently. What do you think he's maybe been doing differently, or how have you seen improvement in his game over the last few weeks?
It's hard to say what he's doing differently, because I don't think he was ever terrible for us. I just think him, Proper, and Butland is a sort of trio back there. I've got a decent relationship, good communication in there. As Tommy said, there's a little bit of the whole siege defending and last minute blocks in there, but that's what Souttar is good at, so it kind of suits him in a way, as much as it does give us all a heart attack for 90 minutes at a time. So I get his point completely, but I'm enjoying him. I think he's good. I think him and Proper have now became our centre backs. There's not a lot of debate in there anymore. I know Balogun was on the bench today, didn't come on, but I don't think anyone is really expecting any change there in terms of Thursday night or going into the next few games. So I think that's helping us as a team, bit of stability. We've not really touched on Jeffy very much in this, and I think he was brilliant today, sort of going forward and defensively. So
easily man of the match.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on that. Every time I see him, his ability just seems to shine through more and more and more every time I see him. I'm completely with you on that.
I love how brave he is on the ball, which for a defender is a bit silly in terms of he's not exactly going bombing forward as much, but he's just very capable of just running past a man or two and just breaking those lines, which, again, been stuck with Borna Barisic for so long, and I think we did hold on to him to his disservice in a way. Like he wasn't the player he was when he joined, kind of thing. So a little bit harsh, but it's just very refreshing to have a left back who can play a pass, can maybe the crossing still to get there, kind of thing. He's not quite as consistently a crosser as you'd hope for, but he's only 20, so he's going to get better and better. again, the European nights have been massive for him. And I think, going back to the earlier point, him and Proper have got a decent little relationship here. There's a few comments saying earlier about Suter sort of bailing Tav out a little bit, which might be a little harsh on Tav, but again, it's just a bit more regularity. Playing beside each other is a big thing, because people talk about the whole centre-back partnership, but between left centre-back and left back and right centre-back and right back, it's just as important for that for me. So, yeah, I mean, the point is defences win titles. So let's just kind of leave the pod on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. You two are to keep trying to shut down this pod, but I'm going to ask one more question.
We're obviously on the clock. Although I do spare a thought for CGM 55 on their couch. Stick another jacket on. We're going to be here for a while. We'll stay on just for you to keep you warm.
Tommy, just to finish, that's 2 games in 4 days, 2-0 win away in Europe.
I've got to go. No more questions. Me and Ian have shut the shop now. That's it.
2-0 win away in Sweden, which is never easy. I've a 1-0 win in 3 points at home today in the league. Clean sheets in both. How hard is it to stay in that game by game mentality, and not start to look ahead or look at a bigger picture piece, I guess, where this team seemed to be developing by the game, and we've said that we know this team has its weaknesses, so we just need to take each game as it comes and take the result from that one and move on to the next one. How easy or how difficult are you finding that, I guess, as a Rangers fan, and not looking ahead or looking elsewhere in the league and looking at what others are doing and just keeping the focus on us?
So do you mean as fans, how hard is it to go game?
Yeah.
Game? Yeah, it's impossible. I mean, I'm going to say nobody does that. Right? Oh, I'm going to take it game by game. When managers and players say it and all that as well, I don't put any store on. Oh, we're going game by game. That means you're preparing game by game, but everybody is already thinking about where the shiny stuff is. The same people will say the same thing. Supporters, managers, players, they'll say, yeah, we set out to win things and it's all about trophies and all that, but we're going game by game. Okay, those are competing comments, because you're going game by game on the build up to something you've already mentioned, which is at the end point. So maybe getting too philosophical about that. But yeah, I mean, I get the point of you're trying to just win and win and win, build that momentum and not get too tied up on other rhetoric, because that can derail stuff, and you start to put yourself in a box of somebody's had a really great result, we've had a shakier result, whatever it looks like, or performances. But yeah, there's always an end goal on the horizon. It's just making sure that you split it down and you go, how close does that get us right now on to the next thing? And as a supporter, I think we're decent enough at that. That's how I approach it. But I don't blinker myself to what I hope for every May, right? Which is, Rangers winning stuff. And before anybody smart in the comments says there's other trophies that happen before May and all that, I get that, but there's always the big one. There you go. But anything beyond that, I mean, come on, nobody can turn it all off.
Yeah, and that's
what me saying that I don't think about all the podcasts as they're coming up. When's the next? This is Ibrox one. I just think about the next one, and then I think about the next one. Do I hell? Particularly when you and the guys fire the schedule out.
Yeah, very fair, very fair. Right, we'll bring the podcast to a close there. Thank you very much to Ian and Tommy for joining us this Sunday evening. Thank you very much to everyone who's been watching and commenting. It's been really appreciated and been great to have you involved.
Sorry to interrupt. If you're a contractor, if you're out there, Tommy at thisisibrox.co.uk. I am in need of people who can do trades. Right, contact me.
To be fair, everyone, I would much rather if you liked the video, if you enjoyed the content, I'd much rather if you subscribe to the channel as well, if you have, just to make sure you've not missed out on any of the content so far or anything we've got coming up. Kyle and the guys will be back on Wednesday in the build up to the Lyon game, which we're all looking forward to at Ibrox, and then I'm not entirely sure who will be live or in the post-match from the Lyon game.
I believe it's me
yourself and Kyle, Tommy, is it? So, so it'll be Kyle and Tommy live post-match from the Lyon game as well at Ibrox. But thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Until next time, goodbye.